is presented by Sky Vodka. Please drink responsibly.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon on assignment in Arizona for tonight's Seahawks-Cardinals game.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Amazing that you would be assigned to cover a game where you have a vacation home. Amazing.
What a coincidence, Tony.
Unbelievable.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Game in the desert like this. Big game. You're going to watch, right? At least the first quarter?
I'm going to watch some of it, but soon you'll be saying, I've got to cover the Phoenix Suns. And people say they're 30 games under 500, but they've got
like
young
4 years
players.
for that. That's going to take some years, Tony, the Suns.
God. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Adrian Peterson's workload, Lonzo Ball's struggles, and the Patriots' new acquisition. But we begin today with a report by our friend Mark Maskey in the Washington Post that NFL owners still intend to go through with the proposed contract extension for Commissioner Roger Goodell. Now, yesterday, the New York Times reported Jerry Jones was threatening to sue the league and 6 individual owners on the competition committee if this happened. Wilbon, with the news this afternoon of Ezekiel Elliott's suspension being back on, do you think Jerry Jones will go through with his threats?
Ooh, Jerry must be angry as 1,000 bees swarming, Tony, that Ezekiel Elliott apparently was going to miss these games, which I think the rest of us have known he's going to miss these games. Still, Jerry unhappy. Tony, here's what I don't understand Jerry getting around. The owners voted by reportedly then a count of 32-0 unanimously to extend Roger Goodell at whatever this rate of increase of compensation would be. 32-0 means Jerry, too, agreed to this.
Yes.
So what? So
yes.
Ezekiel Elliott gets suspended and Jerry then says, no, I'm out. I'm reversing my vote. How's he going to get around having stamped this with his own rubber stamp of approval?
I mean, I can't refute any of that, and nor will I try. But I will say that Jerry Jones is not inconsequential. He is a very powerful man who has made a lot of money for the league and for himself. And he's not like Al Davis. Al Davis was trying to take down the entire league, as you remember, Mike. And Jerry Jones is just trying to take down Roger Goodell. And Roger Goodell is not Pete Rozelle, and he's not Paul Tagliabue. Now, I see a way out. I can't imagine Jerry suing individual owners, because that's certifiably crazy. You can't do that. The way out that I see, if it's possible, is they compromise on the 6-game suspension one way or another, maybe 3, maybe 4, so that Jerry still thinks the Cowboys have a path to the playoffs without Ezekiel Elliott, because it's not 6 games. Maybe cooler heads prevail, because if he sues, it's terrible. Terrible.
Tony, Ezekiel Elliott is one issue, and if Jerry wants to object and exhaust all the means that the league has, or he has, fine. But what does it have to do with him having already said yes to Roger Goodell
you can't do that.
Whatever this compensation package is? He voted for it.
Ooh, I changed my mind. No, you can't. You can't, obviously.
It's a little late for that.
Yeah.
Huge storyline in tonight's game between the Seahawks and Cardinals here in the desert is how much the Cardinals will depend on Adrian Peterson. He carried a career-high 37 times just 3 days ago. And when asked how much he could call on Peterson on short rest, Coach Bruce Arians said, and I quote, "I would think the same as last week. He runs in the walkthrough. He's amazing. I wouldn't challenge him in any form or fashion by saying, you're only going to get 20, because I'd probably have to fight him on the sideline." Close quote. Tony, would you have a problem, if the Cardinals handed Peterson the ball another 37 times tonight?
First, let me just say it's fantastic that Sunday was 3 days ago when today is Thursday. I love that new math. If you ask
4 days ago, whatever. You weren't a math major either.
4 days
I know
ago.
you know better at it than me.
If you ask me in the context of CTE, if you tell me you're going to let this guy get hit 74 different times in 4 days, in that context, I'm going to say it's terrible, because we believe, whether or not we know, we believe that with each increasing hit, the possibility of CTE expands. So, okay. But if you ask me as a football guy, if you say, look, you got no quarterback, you got Drew Stanton, okay, you have a Hall of Fame running back who wants the ball, who has a freakish body, who is fit and just gained 150 yards or whatever it is, then I'm going to say to you, Hand him the ball because they call him all day. Hand him the ball. So
I think that either the coordinator or running backs coach or somebody else at the Cardinals compared Adrian Peterson to an old stove in a complimentary way. And you need to just keep throwing wood at it, keep the fire going. And Tony, Adrian Peterson, to do this.
This is important that everybody is on the same amount of rest. And it's possible they won't tackle as well or play as well. And you know what, Mike? He's not going to get 37 carries if he goes 3 and out the first 3 times.
No.
He's not.
Tony, my over-under is 25. I can see him getting to between 23 and 27 carries. It ain't going to go north of 30. Hard to see that.
NBC has announced its intention to utilize the Skycam angle for the majority of next week's Thursday night football game. The executive producer of the telecast said, quote, younger generations of NFL fans have grown accustomed to watching football from this angle through their love of video games. This telecast will have a look and feel akin to that experience, unquote. Wilbon, would you be comfortable with this camera angle becoming the standard way to televise football?
No, I'm not 10 years old or 20 years old or 30 years old. No, I don't play video games. I don't play Madden. I don't play 2K or 3K18 or whatever's out there. No, I'm used to watching football a certain way.
Yeah.
And the NFL better be careful. The network partners better be careful, Tony, because the millennials and younger than that, like my son who plays it and thinks this angle is so cool at 9 years old, are they able to, even when they're 29, are they buying the products? Are they supporting the advertisers? Are they going to the NFL telecast in droves in the same numbers that old people like you and me, the way we've gone to the TV? They don't even have TVs. So they better be careful about this. The NBC, ESPN, CBS, whoever's Fox, all of them.
Yeah. Much like you, we don't have to play Madden because we actually know Madden, okay? So we don't have to play Madden. I don't know this angle. I watched some of it today. It seemed okay with me. What I find interesting about it, and I'm sure they'll have all the other angles for replay that they have in standard times because they've got all the cameras. What I find interesting is this is a Thursday night game, not a Sunday night game. On Sunday night, that's the #1 show in American television every Sunday night. No genius is going to mess with Sunday night. On Thursday night, when you're trying to attract viewers, you change the color of the uniforms, which they've done. You got to do all the stuff because on Thursday night, most of these games are mutts, and nobody wants to see them. So they're going to try this now and see if it works. I'm not as opposed to it as you are because I sort of like it.
I'm not opposed. I'm just saying I don't want to see it that way. I understand what they're doing. They're chasing numbers.
Yeah.
They're chasing younger
But the
viewers.
angle wasn't bad.
I understand that. You know what, Tony? It got to be annoying after a while. They did it because of the fog in New England. They did it because of the smoke in wherever it was last week. Was it in Houston? Smoke and fireworks show. You can't even see it through the cloud of the haze. Just keep chasing the youngsters. Let's see how that works.
I think that's what they're going to try and do.
Ball had another stinky shooting night last night in Boston against the Celtics. The Rook was 4 for 15 for the game, Tony, and he's now the worst shooter in the league in the paint and next to worst outside the paint this season. He told reporters afterwards, quote, "It's in my head, to be honest. I know I can shoot the ball," close quote. Last night was his 4th consecutive game making under 27%. Tony, there were plenty of NBA players who said before the draft, Ball had to fix his funky jump shot. So, do you believe it's all in his head?
No. I understand why he says that. Yeah. Athletes always say that because athletes are told, and it's demonstrated, that physically, from a very young age on, they can do anything. So when that doesn't happen, of course, their fallback position is, well, it must be mental. Here's what it is. He's a 20-year-old kid playing against men, okay, who are just as fast as he is, just as big as he is, and they beat him to the spot that he wants to get to, and they contest everything that he does, and he doesn't know why this is happening, so he ascribes it to all in his head. No, he's playing against great players. This ain't college anymore.
It's both, Tony. It's physical and it's in your head. It's in your head because the guy's got his hand on the ball.
That's right.
Or at least in front of your face, and that funky jump shot where you're bringing it across your body to shoot it just because your father made you shoot it that way. Your father, despite thinking he's Michael Jordan, wasn't. And anybody on the Boston Celtics now or any other team in the league is better than somebody on Washington State who is who you played against last year. And so it's physical and it's in your head because after so many times of not being able to make it, Tony, which is physical, then it's here. So it's both physical and mental.
Look,
I'm not saying he can't get over it. I'm saying he probably can because he seems to be an unbelievably talented kid.
He plays a lot
but
of
it's
minutes.
More than just
He's going to get better. You can work on your shooting.
Yes.
We know players.
Yes.
Rick Barry, Magic Johnson, Julius Erving. They got better and better and better as shooters, and he's going to have to work on that. But this is the easy way out to say, oh, it just must be mental. No, they're better players. They're better players guarding them. That's how it works. Let's take a break. Coming up, why is Sean McVay having so much success coaching the Rams at just 31 years old? We're going to ask Steve Young.
We'll also ask him whether it's fair to say Carson Wentz is running a college offense.
So you're not going to watch? Oh, you're going to be live tonight. You're not going to have to see it on TV.
I'm at the game.
Right.
What are you talking about?
You're covering it.
I got
Can't
talked
wait for
into
your
it.
story.
I got talked into it. I wonder how Uncle Tony.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Sky. Pardon the Interruption, presented by Sky Vodka, part of Happy Hour.
In a story we broke wide open in our first segment, Week 10 of the NFL season begins tonight, which makes it a perfect time for a visit from ESPN NFL analyst and Hall of Fame quarterback, our favorite person on these shows, Steve Young. We will start with this. Why do you think that Sean McVay, this kid, he's 31 years old. My son is 31. Why do you think he has had so much success so quickly with the Rams?
Well, sir, you look at the Rams roster, Tony. I mean, that's just got some players. I mean, they've got, and then who knew that Jared Goff would be what he is? And so with that, if you came into the season and said Jared Goff is going to be the young, franchise quarterback, you got Todd Gurley, you got some great receivers, got a stout defense, you say, hey, that's how you do it. And then Sean McVay, what he's got the heritage, and I'm sorry to do this, but it goes back to Bill Walsh. John McVay was with Bill through all the years. They have the toolkit. His son, Tim, which is Sean's dad, was around all the time. Jay gets it from John. John gets it from Andy Reid. Andy Reid gets it from Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren was here for many years in San Francisco. There's something about what Bill did that is portable with great people-skilled human beings. And Sean is a people-skilled human being. And when you find that in a great coach, that's the kind of stuff. And then give him some players, that's what you're going to see.
Wow, Tony, I know that makes you happy. Bill Walsh, your fave coach of all time, right?
It's the truth.
He is.
There's a vein to follow right through.
Steve, Chris Harris had a really interesting remark about the Eagles running a college offense, and he says that Carson Wentz just does it really well. Do you understand what he might mean by college offense? If it is a college offense, how come a pro defense can't stop it?
Look, we know that the game is headed towards college because they make it safer, less time. We've talked about this, less time between coaches and players. They're capitulating to a lot of that, but that's just not right. What he's doing is he's adding himself as the 11th player who can threaten with his legs. And when you do that, I think in defensive players' minds, that's like, well, that's college. Because Tom Brady doesn't do that. Drew Brees doesn't do that. And so, in my mind, Carson is allowing himself to be that extra weapon. Because in my mind, Carson Wentz is doing pro stuff. He's reading through sideline to sideline. He's getting to the fifth receiver. He's making throws that are very kind of nuanced. He's double moves, he's play fakes, all the stuff that you see in a much more advanced quarterback he's doing. So the idea that you're going to get beat and get with 51 laid on you, and you're going to say, well, college, that is cheap, and really that frustrates me.
Okay, so we've talked about Sean McVay, who's a kid coach, and we've talked about Carson Wentz, who's a kid quarterback. Eli Manning, not a kid, 36 years old right now, and the Giants appear to be in a position where they can't even get up off the mat. Is it time to sit Eli Manning?
Yes, because at the end of the season, they have to put everyone out in the parking lot. Everyone is out, and no one gets back in unless you're a part of the solution going forward. And to know that, they got to know who's on the roster. To make those decisions, they got to see these quarterbacks because they might be in the mix for one of these big quarterbacks in college. And if you're going to do that, then you've got to know exactly what you got to. So you've got to be thinking to yourself, the season's gone. Eli's probably not going to be the future, and so we got to figure out the future right now, and we can't have Eli being in the way of that. So it might sound crazy, but we've got to find out who's on our roster, and Eli might have to sit down to find out who's on there.
Steve, I want to broaden this out a little bit to ask you about sort of a league question. I've been somewhere between sad and angry that I think the quality of play in the league overall is just not what it used to be, not what it was when I was watching you play. And I wanted to tell me if I'm nuts. And in either way, do you see the quality of the game improving or worsening?
There's a tale here. It's not going to get better because they want to make it safer. And in making it safer, they're not allowing coaches and quarterbacks and players to be together more. They're together less in the offseason. They're very regulated in the preseason. That's why we say the preseason is the first half of the season now, because it takes time to get everyone kind of up to speed. Football is choreography. It's a glorified dance step. It's how many times you break the whole huddle 10,000 times, you actually get pretty good at it. But when you only have 500, you're not going to be as good. So we look at parity. We look at tremendous athletes. The athletes are as good as they ever will be. They're competitive. That's really all the league really wants. Competitive football, great athletes doing highlight things. They're not, you see it, I see it, but the average person doesn't say, oh my gosh, the quality of the play is really down, because they're just, they're fantasy. They're looking for great plays and a lot of fun. And they're close games. That's what they want. But the true nature of football is we need to be together more, not less. That's why we're headed more towards college, because college doesn't get together very often because of school and because of finals and everything else. They're very regulated. The pros are getting more and more like that, and that's why we're headed closer to college, and that's why you see that difference, and it really bugs you because you don't want to watch college football on Saturday and college football on Sunday. You want to see the pros, and that's why it's a little bit of a jam.
Does it bother you, Steve? As a guy who played at an incredibly high level, does this bother you?
Well, because you want to see excellence really is driven by, the nuances. And that's why I love the quarterbacks that are taking advantage of it. Tom Brady's taking advantage, Drew Brees taking advantage of this slow slide back to college because they're experts. They're up here, and they can just rule from the top. And as the defenses are not as sophisticated, they're not spending the time. They don't have they have things that make you go wow, but when you see through it, these guys are. That's why they're so dominant. And so I'm not sad about it. I'm just jealous. Like, you mean, you can't touch the quarterback. You can't touch the quarterback, and you got all these rules that are helping you kind of be great, and then now all of a sudden, then the defenses are getting less sophisticated. What happened? I want some of this, and I get the football. I get to work the footballs in exactly how I want them, and they don't come out of the box with the orange preservative that makes it so slick it's like an ice cube. Come on, Michael, you kidding me? Get me back. Fountain of youth.
Thank you so much, as always,
Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated.
All right, boys, take care.
Subscribe today or visit Verizon.com/HBO.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Sky Vodka. Make every day. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 86th birthday, Whitey Herzog. The White Rat's in the Hall of Fame for his managerial career. He managed 4 different teams for a total of 18 seasons, most notably the St. Louis Cardinals, with whom he won the World Series in 1982. Herzog reached the World Series 2 other times with the Cardinals, losing once to the Royals and Dick Howser and once to the Twins and Tom Kelly.
Those Cardinals teams, Tony, played quintessential National League baseball. McGee, Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith. That Jack Clark was the only guy hitting home runs on that team.
He's the only powerful guy, I thought. Happy anniversary, LSU. On this day 15 years ago, LSU pulled a rabbit out of a hat on the very last play against Kentucky. Kentucky was so confident it had upset LSU 30-27 that the Wildcats coach, Guy Morris, had been bathed in Gatorade. Imagine how lousy that felt as Morris watched Devery Henderson cross the goal line with the winning touchdown.
Wasn't Nick Saban coaching that LSU team?
Yes.
I think he was, Tony.
Yes, he was. Happy trails, Vontae Davis. The Colts released the cornerback after he opted to undergo season-ending groin surgery following a second opinion from non-team doctors. Davis and the team had been at odds over the injury, and on Saturday, the Colts kept him off the travel squad, claiming that decision was, quote, non-injury related. But don't worry, the Colts will pay the remainder of Davis's $9 million salary if he is not cleared off waivers.
What a mess the Colts are. By the way,
yes,
no more Colts left from game 1 on the defensive side of the ball from the opening week of 2016. All changeover.
And the quarterback not playing.
Yeah, not there either.
Not playing. Right. One error, Mike, you said the smoke from the halftime was at a Texans game.
Where
was it? At a Dolphins game. It was probably Jay Cutler. And one
Smoking
omission,
Jay Cutler.
Martellus Bennett wasn't out of work for long. He's been claimed off waivers by the New England Patriots.
I'm not sure why they parted ways. He had 55 receptions last year, 7 touchdowns. It worked well last year, probably will work well again.
I assume they didn't want to pay him, and he got a bigger deal somewhere else, and now he's back. Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Jason Tatum of the Celtics, who you love, sat out the second half last night with ankle soreness. Big deal?
Tony, if he's back, even in a few weeks, it's not a big deal. He has played so well, but they do need him. That kid's invaluable. Kristaps Porzingis, your boy, sat out last night's Knicks loss, says he may need offseason elbow surgery. Your level of concern, Mr. Knickerbocker, is
after
what?
10 games, if you're talking about off-season surgery, after 30, you're talking about in-season surgery. A.J. Green got fined $42,000 for fighting. Is that sufficient?
It's too much, and he says he won't appeal. I don't understand. Royals manager Ned Yost, get this, Tone, fell out of a tree stand, broke his pelvis and several ribs, so wish him well.
What are you doing in a tree stand? You need your pelvis. I think 2 pelvises are pelvi. You need your ribs. What are you doing? That's nuts. Last one, Cavs at Rockets tonight. Who you got?
You know, when the Cavs are awake and interested, which they get 3 or 4 times in the regular season, they usually win.
We're out of time.